When I was young, one of my favorite pastimes was playing the claw machine. It got to the point where whenever I was in an arcade or a restaurant or a store that had one, I absolutely had to play it. There was no question. So I would save up my quarters or dollar bills and I would play it, and I had gotten so good at this game that I went from never being able to win at all to winning almost every single time. Other than this, throughout my life, I've developed numerous special interests. As a person who is likely on the autism spectrum, and I say likely because I was assessed for it, not formally diagnosed, but I say it's close enough for me to be fairly certain that I do have it. I always fell into this trap of becoming very, very obsessed with certain hobbies or aspects of life. This would usually result in me solidifying a routine around certain hobbies. There were certain things that I would always love to draw, or certain songs that I would listen to on repeat for hours because I was just so into them. And I always knew in the back of my mind that other kids didn't really do this to the extent that it was happening to me, so I always felt a little bit different in that aspect. I was told when I was young that I would zone out a lot and seem like I wasn't really present, which is probably due to the fact that I was daydreaming about my little stories I would create in my head all day rather than wanting to hang out with other kids and stuff like that. And so then it kind of caused me to develop a little bit of shame around having these sort of obsessions because I felt like other people, especially as it still continued up to the age that I am now, which is fairly old for having those types of things happen, I feel. I just began to develop a little bit of shame because I was embarrassed about how other people would react to it. But on the plus side, despite it being slightly embarrassing for me to talk about sometimes, and also despite it flooding my brain a little bit too much, maybe excessively, other than that, it actually, I think, can be a good aspect in a human being. Because, think about it. My brain is always running, and I'm always thinking of these super interesting topics, and I love to tell people about them and express my deep interest, my deep love for these things to people. And so, automatically, that does attract some positive attention, although sometimes I realize I need to tone it down because I'll catch myself rambling a bit too much and then realize somebody's just not interested, or I'll end up coming across as a little overly passionate. So I try to keep it within neurotypical range, With that being said, if you're also autistic like me or neurodivergent, and you have special interests, your little hyperfixations, I just want you to know there will be people who may judge you for it, especially if your interest is something less common, or deemed as quote-unquote cringy, maybe. But there will also be people who will really invite you into their life for that and be very fascinated alongside with you and allow you to go on your little ramblings about your things, and those are the people you want to keep around. And I think, although they can be irritating sometimes, with all the racing thoughts, our special interests can be amazing parts of our lives that just enrich us with knowledge that we can share to the world and put down on paper. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or just a happy day if you don't celebrate. See you all.